This week we have Pascal Ledru, who's originally from Paris but now lives in San Francisco by way of Colorado. All three of his PBPs were completed as a member of the Rocky Mountain Cycling Club. He has 8 other grande randonnees to his name, including 2 in Korea and 1 in Canada. Pascal also recently won his age category at the St. Patrick's Day Massacre, a local hill climbing event here in San Francisco. Thanks for joining, Pascal.
Thanks for having me, Peter.
I'm so excited to have a real live French person on the
Yeah.
podcast. Okay. So
I've been in
you're
the US for so long, I'm not sure I'm French
no,
anymore. But yeah.
you're representing an entire nation. Okay, so don't mess it
Ooh,
up. Okay, okay,
pressure.
okay. All right. Quick one. Actually, I'm kind of interested. You recently moved, and I've only recently met you, maybe 2 or 3 months ago for the first
Yeah.
time, because you moved from Colorado to San Francisco.
Mhm.
Tell us about the differences between San Francisco versus Colorado. Obviously, San Francisco is much better. We'll start
Of
there.
course, of course.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I mean, since you say San Francisco is much better, I will highlight my lunch ride, which I bump into you a couple of times. I start from the Golden Gate
Yeah,
Park, cross the Presidio, cross the Golden Gate
yeah,
Bridge, go up Rock Hill, go to
yeah.
Rodeo Beach, and there's nobody there. So it's
It's
like
amazing.
amazing ride. I mean, it's just like, and then go back to work in the afternoon, but that's just an amazing ride. So anyway, for people visiting, it's just
Yeah,
like incredible. Um, in terms of differences, I think both Colorado and San Francisco have a pretty strong, bike culture. Then I was living for Boulder for 20 years. We moved to Denver a little bit before the pandemics, and then we moved to San Francisco. And I don't really race well, except the St. Patrick Massacre. But
exactly.
in Colorado, there is or was actually a fair number of pro cycling. There was a cyclocross national in 2010 or something like this. Same for a couple of years. There was a pro cycling challenge, and I
Yeah,
did volunteer for all of those. So I don't know if there's such a thing around San Francisco, but
yeah,
maybe there is.
yeah,
I think another thing is like in Colorado, there's more and more gravel event.
yeah, yeah,
Like there's a big one which is called the Gravel Steamboat Spring. And around San Francisco, a lot of people have been telling me about the Grasshopper series, which
yeah,
I didn't know, but it seems a pretty big deal. Otherwise, something I've been doing in San Francisco, which I'm not sure exists in Colorado,
yeah,
is that on Thursday morning, I've been going to the fat cake ride, and they call it fat cake because they end up at a bakery at the end. And it's typically, the 30-year-old doing
yeah,
that at 6:30 in the morning before
yeah,
going to work. And those are a lot of fun. I don't know if we have something similar in Colorado. In
yeah,
Colorado, there is one type of ride I've been doing, and my friend Mike Turek is in charge of those, which is a club for veterans. It's basically, try to engage veterans through cycling.
yeah,
Again, probably there is such a thing around here. I'm not just aware.
yeah,
Maybe another difference will be in terms of randonneering. So RMCC is a much smaller club than SFR.
yeah,
On IMCC is a bit like Davis. You have regular club ride, and then you have the brevet series.
yeah,
But the brevet are much smaller. Typically, it's like 20 people. Like SFR, you have like 100 people. It's like,
yeah,
wow, and
yeah.
it's very cool. I like that.
Yeah,
So,
that's great. That's cool. Great.
mhm.
Okay, back to my normal questions then. The first one I
Yeah,
always
yeah.
ask, what does PBP mean to you? And again, there's a great weight to this because you're a French person.
I think, it's really just a personal achievement. You do get a medal at the end, but, you don't get money or anything. So you really compete against yourself. And I think sometimes you wonder why you do that. But when
Yeah,
you are done, it's like, wow, it was, incredible. And I
yeah,
remember in 2015, I was talking to a French guy in the middle of the night. And of course, he was saying, well, I keep saying myself, never again. But he was saying, as soon as I crossed the line, I was planning the next one.
yeah,
And I think
yeah,
it's, for most of us, it's, a little bit what we
Yeah.
do. We wonder why we do it, but when we are done, it's
Yeah.
incredible. And I think the evolution of PBP is pretty neat to, even between 2015 and 2023, I can see the change. You have like more international.
Yeah.
And by international, it's not just European or North American. You have more and more people from Asia.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of nice. You have these people from literally all over the world, maybe not Africa yet, but maybe
Yeah.
hopefully in the future. And they come to this event and they share their passion of cycling. And I
Yeah.
think, I don't know if you see that for other things, but I think it's really neat.
Yeah. So true. So true. And Pascal, that first finish line in 2015, how did that feel?
2015, we end up at the Velodrome, which I think is kind of nice because the Velodrome is, where they actually do the French track competition. And yeah, you just finish and it's like, wow, I
Yeah.
did it.
That's
So
so cool. That's great. Okay, let's go back to the start. Tell me about your background in cycling, why you like to ride, your earliest memory, that kind of thing.
um, when I was a kid, I wasn't really into cycling. I did bunch of different sport. I did rock climbing, windsurfing,
Yeah.
but cycling was just a mean to go around. And
Yeah.
when I was a kid, actually, I used to spend pretty much every summer in Brittany.
Yes.
We used to spend the summer in Saint-Malo. And Saint-Malo is about, 50 miles north of
Yeah.
Fougères. That's
Yeah.
on the coast. But then my grandparents had a house there. And then when we were like 15, my cousin and I
Yeah.
used to bike on Brittany.
Yeah.
We were taking our backpack or small tent. Sometimes we were not even taking the tent. And then we had a sleeping
Yeah.
bag and we were trying to find a spot. So we went from Saint-Malo to not too far from Brest, actually, sometime. And then one time I remember we bike from Saint-Malo to Cherbourg, which is in Normandy, the top tip
Yeah.
of Normandy. But I was just going around with the bike, and then I
Yeah.
also have cousins in the Alps, and same, I was just biking with them. So I guess we were doing a little bit what the fancy backpacking is doing these days.
Yeah.
So
Yes. And actually, a brief aside, when I was around five, maybe
mhm.
7 years old, unusually as an Irish family, we drove
Yeah.
to Brittany, right? And I
Hmm.
always remember my father got lost in Sam Malo
Oh, that's
and
funny.
he started
Right. Yeah.
freaking out.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a joke in our family for a good 30 years after we
Yeah.
talk about Sam Malo.
I mean, I don't know if there's a ferry going directly to our island, but there is a ferry going from Saint-Malo to England. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There was one. I went to Le Havre, if I remember, from Rosslare,
Right.
I think. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool. And tell me, I'm going to keep asking you these questions. As a French person, were you, is there a deeper resonance to riding a bicycle? I know you described it as kind of utilitarian, but you must have been kind of proud that the Tour de France is the top of the
Yeah.
cycling triangle. Yeah.
I mean, I think especially, I was growing up in the 70s. On the 70s was the Bernard Hinault area,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
it's still the last winner of the Tour de France.
Yes,
And
it's been a
sometimes
while.
I
Yeah.
joke with my friends that I'm going to die before we get another French winner. So hopefully not.
Yeah.
But, like the 70s was the big period of Bernard Hinault or even Laurent Fignon.
Yeah.
We had multiple Bernard Thévenet. By then, we had multiple winners. And I think now, of course, the competition is harder because cycling is more international. But still, I'm hoping one day we'll get a
Yeah.
French winner. But when I was growing up, I knew about the Tour de France. Of course, I knew about Paris-Roubaix. But I actually also knew about PBP. I
That's
don't really
cool.
remember why, but I knew about PBP, and I knew
Yeah.
it was a randonneur event.
Yeah.
Um, and then for your listeners, the French don't really say randonneur. They either
Okay.
say cyclotourist or just cyclo if they want to make it
Oh,
shorter.
cool. Yeah, that's good.
On randonneur, actually it just means, going around or exploring. And
Yeah.
if you don't specify, it usually means like hiking. But if you
Okay.
want to specify, you will say randonneur cyclist.
Nice.
And then
Nice.
it will mean, just going around with a bicycle.
Yeah.
So
Yes, Pascal, you're already adding value. Thank you. Okay.
I don't know about that.
It's funny you mentioned the Tour de France, the lack of a French winner since the
Mhm.
70s. It's
Yeah,
like England and football. They haven't won the World
I
Cup since
know.
1966.
Yeah, I
So
know.
all these sports
Mm.
become very international and
Right.
much more competitive. So that's
Yeah,
what
it's
happens. Yeah.
competitive now. Still, hopefully, either French will win or an American.
Yeah.
So,
Last random question, I'll move on. So you grew up in Paris. Where exactly in Paris?
my parents are from a little village. It's called Bougival. It's
Yeah.
maybe 20 kilometers west of Paris, and about
Okay.
10 kilometers north of Versailles.
Yes.
So actually, in 2015, my friend Mike Turek and I stayed at my parents, and for registration, we bike directly,
Oh, that's so cool. That's so
from
cool.
Bougival to Saint-Quentin. So
A-
makes things a
And
bit easier.
yeah. And is there a big cultural difference between growing up where you did and Brittany in general? Is it seen as this kind of strange, different province?
Yeah, I mean, because I always, went to Brittany as a kid, I'm pretty actually familiar with Brittany. On this day, I do have a cousin in Brest, actually.
Okay.
So I know Brittany fairly well, but maybe in the 70s, it was seen as a little bit the more remote part of France,
Yeah.
They have their own language, even if nobody speaks Breton anymore these days.
Yeah.
But in the 70s, they didn't have the TGV, the fast train going to Brittany,
Yeah.
so it was a little bit remote.
Yeah.
No, it's not the case anymore because the TGV actually goes to Rennes really fast. So the TGV always even go to Saint-Malo.
Yeah.
So I think, it's closer to Paris, but in the
Mm.
70s, it was a little bit still a little bit
Yeah.
remote.
It's interesting, Pascal. Where I grew up in Ireland, the
Hmm.
southwest, it feels like Brittany. The people look like
Right. Yeah.
they're Irish.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's also lots of tractors on the roads. Like it's
Mhm.
not that. I think people think that PBP is like Provence or something very.
Yeah. Right.
It's a kind of a utilitarian,
Right.
workmanlike area. It's a
Right.
farming area.
I think especially the road that PBP is taken, which is really the middle of Brittany, is different than the coast. If you
Yeah,
go to Saint-Malo, no, Saint-Malo has, a lot of people coming from Paris. It's going
yeah,
pretty popular. Or if you go on the coast, like Nantes on the southern coast or Quimper, it's a bit more touristic. But the road that PB is taken is right in the middle of Brittany. And I think that's also, another neat aspect. You,
yeah,
you see a part of France that you will probably not see otherwise. And you go
yes,
through these really small villages, all churches and stuff like this,
yeah,
Saint everybody.
yeah.
So it's a bit nice, I think, to see
Yeah,
this part of France.
again, very similar to where I grew up, like just these
Hmm.
villages with old churches and cut stone and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Okay, so then you moved to the United States at some point in your life. When was that?
Uh, so I used to work for a company called Aerospatiale, which became Airbus, and I
Okay.
moved to a very strange place called Alabama. Nobody knew about it. I didn't even know where Alabama was,
Okay, yeah,
but Huntsville, Alabama, is actually a big defense aerospace
yeah,
center, and the reason for that it's like not really about cycling. But Huntsville, Alabama grew up after World War II because a lot of rocket scientists from Germany moved to the US.
yeah.
And then Huntsville, Alabama is known for the, Saturn V program.
Okay,
So
yeah,
by then I was working for the aerospace industry, moved there, met my wife there, decided that
yes.
after a while it was a little bit hot and humid there, and we moved to Colorado. That's why. Yeah.
That's funny. It must have been quite a culture shock when you
It
got to
was.
Alabama. Am I right?
Yeah, yeah, it was. Yeah.
That's funny.
Mm.
So then you weren't really cycling as much or at all, were you? And then you got to Colorado.
Uh,
Is that where it started?
Right. I wasn't cycling at all in Alabama. It's just too hot and humid anyway.
Yeah.
Then we moved to Colorado, I think right before the Y2K. We were wondering if we were going to be alive after the Y2K.
Okay, good.
And then I think, very typical to a lot of parents, when my kids were growing up, my sports were actually going to the gymnastic meet and watch my daughter compete or go to
Yeah,
the basketball game and watch my son compete. But in Colorado, I was still, commuting to my work with bike a few times a week, which was like 10 miles each way. And then I was doing the Century ride, a couple of them every year. So that's a little bit how I got back into shape,
yeah,
hopefully, got
yeah,
back into cycling. And I always, love cycling, not as much about racing, but just being outdoor. On
yeah,
Colorado is a nice place to be outdoor. And then I think I joined RMCC, the Rocky Mountain Cycling Club. And then actually, I think it was my wife who signed me up for it. Say, oh,
she, yeah,
you can do something. No, maybe she regrets. I don't know if she's going to
yeah.
hear that.
Well, she got you
But
out of the house, but maybe too much. Yeah,
right, yeah,
yeah,
maybe too much. But
yeah,
that's how I joined RMCC. And of course, when I joined RMCC, it's what I mentioned before. MCC had just a regular ride or was a brevet ride, and I think my first ride was a brevet for some weird reason.
yeah.
And then I met John Lee, ZRBA, a couple of my really close friends now. And then, of course, they
Yeah.
started talking about PBP and, oh, you're French, you have to do
Exactly.
PBP.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's funny. So do you remember, so your first PBP was 2015. Do you
yeah.
remember when you started really thinking, okay, I'm going to do PBP because I'm French?
I think it was really, progression. I didn't really plan to do PvP the
Yeah.
first year. I think my first brevet, and by then you didn't have to be part of HUSA. You just needed
Yeah.
part of RMCC. I did one ride in the fall of 2013, and then I became a little bit more serious in 2014.
Yeah.
I don't even think in 2014 I did a 600K. But then people started, talking more about PvP, blah, blah. And then in 2015, I did the series.
Yes.
And then by then, yeah, I sort of made up my mind that I was going to do PvP. And yeah, so a lot of people were very encouraging. I think I got a couple of comments like, oh, you need to plan forever to do PvP.
Yes.
But Mike and I say, oh no, we are just going to do it.
That's great.
So I did the series. My hardest ride ever was 300K in 2015 because we got like rain and snowed on. I
Oh,
was
yeah.
so cold. I was shivering like crazy. But
Yeah.
made the 300, the 400, the 600. And by then, you didn't have to pre-register. It wasn't as well known as it
Yeah.
is now. I mean, it was still
Yeah.
well known, but maybe not as much with the Asian country.
I get you.
So you didn't have to pre-register. So made it during the spring,
Yeah.
and then made it to the starting line.
Can I ask you about logistics? Because I always think that's a tough one for even French people.
Right. I think for me, it's definitely easier the logistic because my parents and my two sisters live very close to the start. They live in the same department than either Saint-Quentin or Rambouillet. It's called
Wow.
Les Yvelines. These French departments are like mini states, very small compared to the US.
Yeah.
And each of them have a number too. So like Les Yvelines is 78.
Yeah.
But so for me, I fly to Charles de Gaulle. I can ask a
Yeah.
taxi. Then if you have the bike case, they will try to negotiate something. So I think it's a bit easier for me to do the
Yeah.
negotiation.
Exactly.
Uh, right.
Yeah.
Then I'd stay with my parents. And in 2015, I was able to
Yeah.
bike to the registration. I think in 2019 and 23, I
Yeah.
bought a car to somebody on French driving license don't expire. So I still have
Okay.
my super
Wow.
old French driving license,
That's
but I
great.
was able
Yeah.
to
That's great.
drive there. So
Yeah. Well, I'm interested. What was it like? It must be really cool to take off from your parents' place on this in 2015. That must be really nice, huh? Nice way to come
yes,
home. Yeah.
So I only did that for pre-registration. I think in 2015 my sister drove me, but for pre-registration I could actually bike directly from my
Wow.
parents to Saint-Quentin. And I have a
Yeah.
very close friend who lives actually next to Saint-Quentin. There's a city
Yes.
called Saint-Cyr next to Saint-Quentin, and he lives there.
Yeah.
So I think we met there and we bike around. And
Yeah.
for your listener, if you stay on the train line between Saint-Quentin and Rambouillet, I think the nice thing is to bike around the Castle Park in
Yeah.
Versailles. It's very
Yeah.
scenic, and if you go on the back of the park, there's not that many people. So
Oh,
it's
so
a
cool.
nice
Yeah.
one to do too.
That's wonderful. And when you did this in 2015, you'd already been living in the United States maybe 20 years. Is that right?
Yeah, I had been in
Okay.
the US for 20 years.
So I ask as someone who's lived here a long time, did they give the French people give you a hard time about being part American now?
Uh, I mean, sometimes, they don't know I live there. So sometimes I
Okay, good.
don't say, or
Yeah,
sometimes I do.
yeah.
The funny things, during the ride, I'm less talkative than Mike. And sometimes he's the one started talking in English to
Yes.
some French people or some other people. And then I speak and say, "Oh, you speak French." So sometimes it's
That's funny.
funny.
Yeah.
Uh, mm.
So then, tell me kind of broadly, well, first of all, what did the start line feel like in 2015? Were you nervous, excited, that kind of thing?
Um, I think I was nervous, but in 2015 it was my first 1200K. And you heard that people say there is good and bad about that. I think there is a lot of good because you don't know what you are
Yeah.
getting into.
That's
Uh,
good. Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
think we came pretty early.
Yeah.
And I think, there is still all the Velomobile were there. And I thought it was really cool to see, all the
Yeah.
Velomobile. And I think that's another, nice things about PVP. You have all these different type of bikes. You have
Yeah.
the tandem, you have the recumbent, you have the velomobile.
Yeah.
And in the US, you don't really see velomobiles that much. I think it's
Yeah.
more like, very flat, like Scandinavia. Also,
Yeah.
now we have a friend in Colorado, Jim Howell. He has a velomobile, but it's
Yeah.
still very unusual.
Yes.
So I think it's nice to see all these different equipment. People have the randonneur bike and they swear
Yeah.
by it, or it's more like the racing bike, or in my case, or on your case, in between the titanium
Yes.
bikes.
Yeah.
So I love, seeing all these, different kind of bike.
So true.
Um,
So, was your intention? I think you started with Mike Turek. I think I got that
yeah,
name right.
yeah, yeah.
So, was your intention to ride with him the whole way? Is that correct?
Right. So in 2015, it was, my first big ride. I didn't really know what to expect. So the things I was really worried was the lack of sleep because I
Yeah.
never done that long.
Yeah.
And then I thought it's good to ride with somebody to keep you awake during the night.
Yeah.
Typical randonneur, you have so many ups and downs to have somebody to complain about when you are
Yeah.
at the
Exactly.
bottom
Yeah.
of your down.
Yeah.
So Mike and I actually started together. Then we slept in Vilaine, which is, I think, and we have been doing the same strategy for the 3 years. And I think it's
Okay.
unusual, but it does work for us, as
Yeah.
opposed to a lot of people, who go for 24 hours. So we slept in Vilaine. I think I had reserved a hotel in 2015, just a little bit north of Vilaine. So maybe
How far is Villain again?
Villain is about like 220K, and
Okay.
that's you stop in Mortagne. Then I think Villain is basically the next one, but so
Okay.
basically 200K, 220K. It's a little bit sleepy on the way, but if you remember on the way back, they have so many. They are so
Yeah.
excited. There's a city it really gears up for the event. But we did sleep a little bit north of the city. I had a hotel there. On the following year, we didn't do the hotel. We just slept at the control. But
Okay.
we slept in Vilaine, which at least for us, it works because I don't want to go 24 riding.
Yeah.
So we slept in Vilaine. Then we carry on pretty good. So yeah, little funny story for
Mm.
your listeners. Then I think it was a little bit before the border with Brittany. I took a little bathroom break behind the bush of some house. And
Yeah.
then the lady come out. I was really embarrassed, but I don't think she noticed. But then she was really excited. She said, "Oh, come inside for coffee." So she invited us for coffee. It was so
So
cool.
funny. That is
And then
funny.
she was telling us, "Oh, you guys are actually so much more fun than the Tour de France." And I think in
Yeah.
2015, the Tour de France came by because she said, "Yes, the Tour de France they come by, and 20 seconds after they are gone." But you guys are still there, and all
Oh,
the
that's
bikes are
so cool.
different. People are so friendly. So she invited us for coffee. So
So
we probably
cool.
spent like half an hour for coffee. So again, we started losing time.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had coffee there. So it
Um,
was pretty nice.
can I ask two questions? Mike had never done it
Sure.
before either. Is that right?
No,
Okay, it was
yeah,
his
it
first time.
was right.
And
It was
had
his first
you
time too.
like I think it's good to ride with others, but it's also can be difficult if you're at
Right,
different emotional kind of peaks and troughs and all that.
right.
Had you talked much about that, or it was kind of just, oh, let's just ride together?
I think it was a bit more, right together, but we also, know that. I think we have a fairly compatible pace, but
Yeah,
you know that at one point, one will be stronger, the other one will be not as
yeah,
strong, and mentally you will go ups and down. And I think, everybody is different for that.
yeah,
We tend to ride together. My other very good friend, Paul Foley and Vernon Smith, they have known each other for a very long time, and
yeah.
they also ride together. Then I know other people like John Lee or John Mangan, they prefer to be on their own. So there's pros and cons about team up with
Definitely,
somebody.
definitely.
I think you don't want to team up with a too big group because then it's
Yeah,
going to be very hard to stay
I agree.
together.
Yeah,
But there's good and bad. It really
cool.
depends on you, I think.
Yeah. So that first year at Villain, did you sleep well that night? Could you sleep?
I think I slept, but I'm really, nervous,
Yeah,
because you are so excited, you don't sleep
yeah,
as good as you think. And I never did that during PBP because I'm a little bit afraid how it will work. But for other 1200K, I don't sleep really well, even if I have a bed. So then I take sleeping pills. But
yeah,
I never dare to do that during PBP.
yeah,
So one thing I did in 2023, and it worked well for me, is that even if you sleep within the school on the cot, because I'm a small person, I tend to be cold very easily. So in
okay.
2023, I had this very small sleeping bag, and it compressed the size of a bottle. And
Yes,
and even then, even if you don't sleep, you keep the warmth of your body.
yeah,
So I
that's
was able
smart.
to rest and sleep much better. So that was one improvement I
Yeah,
did over the year. And this one definitely, worked for me.
yeah. Last question about that strategy of of sleeping relatively early, because that is pretty
Hmm.
relatively early. Like for me, I'm too
Hmm.
kind of amped up and wired to even sleep that first night. So why
Right,
even
right,
try? So
right.
that's not your kind of strategy, obviously.
Right. Yeah. So for us, we prefer to sleep early. You arrive middle of the night, and then we started again. I think around 5. And in 2023, actually, we bumped into our good friend Steve Atkins from Arizona, and he was doing the same.
Okay.
So we met in Villaine. We had a small dinner, and the three of us slept.
Nice.
But again, it's what everybody says. Everybody is different, and you have
Yes.
to do
Yeah.
what works for you. And definitely, it's some experimentation. I'm a little
Yeah.
bit afraid to ride 24 hours and then crash. So that's what
Okay.
we do. But everybody's different, and most people, carry on
Yeah.
either to
Cool.
Ludeac or even further.
Yeah. Pascal, you're different. I think that's what we're learning. Okay.
Yeah,
Everyone's different. Okay.
yeah.
So then, sorry, back to your first one. You slept in Villain, you took off then the next morning. Everything is feeling good. You're refreshed.
So we went pretty good, and then we reached Tintignac. And then in Tintignac, another funny things, I had a slash tire, very slow leak. But
Oh,
then I
okay.
arrived at the control. Then I noticed that, so I went to the bike mechanic, and again, speaking French, helped it a bit.
Yeah.
And then I say, oh, can you change the tire? Because I wasn't sure they are just tube or tire. But I say, yeah, we'll change the tire. We're not going to charge you for the labor. Just go on it. So I went to it. They
Wow.
fixed everything for me. So it was really neat.
Yeah.
So again,
Yeah.
make the conversation a little bit quicker or a little bit faster.
Definitely.
So,
Definitely. Yeah.
change the tires, and don't remember where we slept again, but we reached Brest. So by then in Brest, another little funny story. Mike has been swearing that the jambon baguette or gruyere baguette was the best food in the world. But
Okay.
in Brest, we go to McDonald's. So
Oh
we
my
went to
God.
McDonald's in Brest.
Americans, am I right? Americans.
American,
Oh my
yeah,
God.
American.
Okay. Oh,
So
jeez.
then we go to McDonald's, milkshake on everything.
Yeah.
But then it takes way longer than we think. Typical French.
Fast
Even
food. Fast
McDonald's,
food. Yeah.
yeah, slow,
Yeah.
slow.
Yeah.
So we'll probably spend like 2 hours at McDonald's. But we make to McDonald's,
Wow.
stop back on the way back to Cadillac, and then make it to the end.
Wow.
Sleep in Dreux. Always sleep
Yeah.
in Dreux, which I like because by then you will make it.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah.
Did you have any points in the ride where you said, "Oh, this is really hard. I'm not 100% sure I'm going to make it"?
Yeah, definitely, because you are so tired. The first year we spend so much time
Yeah.
with,
I know.
and I never improve. So I think it's always going to be this way. But
Yes. Yeah.
you are so tired. You say, "Oh, why I am doing that?" But we kept going on then eventually made it.
Yeah.
We didn't do the micro nap things. We did it in 2023, and it
Yeah.
worked, really well for us to do like literally
Yeah.
5 minutes, but it helped a lot.
Yeah.
But definitely what we were talking a little bit earlier, you definitely have the ups and downs. And
Completely.
when you have the
Completely.
down, you say, why I am doing that. But
Yeah.
I think it comes with the experience. No, you know that the
Yeah.
down is going to pass. So,
So, Pascal, your first one you finished in 86 hours and 16 minutes. Did you feel pressured by time at all?
I mean, definitely, if it wasn't a brevet, you will definitely sleep more. But
Yeah.
we knew we had relatively good buffer. So I think when we were in Dreux, we probably slept for 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
So, for me, as long as I finish in 90 hours, I'm
Completely. Yeah.
totally fine. So,
Yeah.
on that one, you reach Dreux to Rambouillet or Dreux to
Yeah.
Saint-Quentin, by then it's very flat. By then, you will make it. By then, you
Yeah.
start being happy again.
That's cool.
So,
Yeah.
so I actually like to stop in Dreux. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a good suggestion. So then you get back to your parents after finishing, and you're this complete hero, the family cyclist. Is that right?
Yeah, so by then I think life is wonderful again, and I think we went to dinner. I think my sister and I, and Mike, and I think Dave Nelson, who was somebody
Yeah,
else from our MCC. But yeah, it's kind of
that's great.
typical randonner. When you are done,
Yeah,
life is so
exactly.
good again.
It
Yeah,
is. It's weird. Yeah.
yeah.
So then you fly home, and then for the next 4 years, you do. Did you already know you were going to do it again?
I think I knew I will probably do it again, and
Yeah.
I did few 1200K in between. I
Okay.
think I did Korea in 2017,
Wow. And that's
2018.
yeah, that's kind of
I
unusual. Why Korea, Pascal?
so Korea because my wife is from Korea,
Okay,
and
makes
then
sense.
when we go to Korea, the trip doesn't count in the bike category trip, but counts in the family category trip. So
Very
that's a
good.
big difference.
Oh, very good.
Um,
That was a high yield question. Okay, I think I
right,
could learn
right.
a lot from you. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, but Korea in 2017 was also another wonderful experience.
Oh, I can imagine.
So
Yeah.
I rode with Mark Thomas there a little bit. Everybody
Yeah.
know Mark,
Yeah.
and it
I
was
interviewed. I
wonderful to
interviewed him. Yeah.
yeah, wonderful to meet him. So I think we rode together the pre-ride because the start was in Seoul, and both of us were there
Yeah.
the day before. And then another funny story. I knew somebody who knew somebody who was doing the ride. So I ended up riding with this Korean team. Now they are like literally my some of my closest friend.
That's
So,
wonderful.
that's one of the great things about randonneuring. You meet
Yeah.
all these people from all over the world, and because you suffer in the middle of the night together, you become
Yeah.
very close.
Yeah. It's like a
So,
foxhole in a war or something. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Mm.
Quick question about did your wife's family are they still there in Korea? So you got to leave from there or something like that?
So in 2017, the start of the Korea Grand Randonnée wasn't in Seoul. So I
Yeah.
actually took the bus to a city called Gwangju.
Yeah.
And then they have some luxury bus there. It's like the first class bus. So I think my sister-in-law reserved the ticket for me. So I just went there by myself. I don't speak
Yeah.
Korean or anything. Uh, but then I met this Korean team that, actually Mike knew somebody who was doing it. And I rode with
Yes.
them. The last day I got separated, but very proud of myself. I managed to find a hotel by myself. I was so
Nice.
proud of myself.
Yeah. It's like me in France. Okay, good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, like super, I become extremely close to them. So in 2019, actually, two of them and I went to the Alps. We biked through the Alps together.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's
So
wonderful.
that's pretty neat.
So back to PBP, for 2019, you wanted to do it again, and you'd obviously experience with, was it almost
Hmm.
four different 1200 Ks under your belt?
Hmm.
And was your approach going to be different? Were you going to do anything
So
different the second one?
yeah, so I think I knew a little bit more about my equipment. So 2015, I had a racing bike. I had my Trek Maiden, running 25 tire,
Yeah,
probably 90 psi. So when
yeah,
you are in the middle of the forest or on carries, the roads are very tough.
yeah,
So actually, after at the end of 2015, I couldn't feel my hand for like
yeah,
months because
yes,
they were so numb. And then I asked Paul Foley, who is a neurologist, his specialty, but say, "Oh, don't worry about it; it's going to go
yeah,
away." But it
okay,
literally took a month.
yeah, yeah,
And then I also was using, battery light in 2015. And then there is good and bad. And I think the battery light technology did improve a lot in the last 10 years.
yeah.
But I knew I wanted a new bike, or maybe it was just my excuse, to get a new bike.
Nice,
But
yeah,
I got a new bike, Titanium 7. We talked about
yeah.
that before,
Lovely
Peter. But
bicycle, yes,
I think the geometry a little bit more comfortable, dynamo hub, and then what else did I do on this bike? A bigger tire. Yeah, I was
yeah,
using 32 by then, so definitely more comfortable bike. So that's
yeah.
something I really learned between 15 and 19. A
So
little bit
cool,
less
yeah.
racing
And
geometry, more comfortable.
and did you ride with anyone else that
Yeah.
second
So
time?
so yeah. So Mike and I rode together.
Oh,
And I
great.
think big group of RMCC started together. I think Paul, Vernon, John Mangin,
Yeah,
two of us. And then I started actually with my Korean friend together, but we got, separated very
yeah,
quickly. It's very hard to be more than two or three. So I
completely. Yeah,
think Paul, Vernon, John, Mike and I arrived together in Villaine. So we slept, but they decided to carry on. And then we caught up to John, I think around Carré, and then
yeah,
we rode into Brest together, and then pretty much all the way back on Cadillac together, and then
yes,
we bumped into John Lee on Fougère, John Lee
yeah.
was the RBA of Colorado, and then we rode with John Lee for a little
That's
bit,
nice.
so we
Yeah,
bumped into various, people
yeah.
that we knew.
And Pascal, I'm sure you felt a lot more relaxed because you'd done it before, you'd done other long rides before. You kind of knew there was an excellent chance that you were going to finish. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I think definitely the experience once you have done one, you need to know what to expect. It
Yeah,
helps a lot, and you will have your ups and downs, and then by then I don't know if I had a DNF by then. I had a DNF a couple of years ago, but I think
yeah,
even the DNF is good for you because it's not
yeah,
the end of the world if you don't
yeah,
make it.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. That's true.
but I think the experience,
Yes.
definitely help.
And 2019, because I did that was my first one. It was
Mhm.
very cold at night. Am I correct?
Yeah, right. So I think, for me, one thing I fear a lot is the rain, because then I got really cold. On I
Yeah,
think 15, 19, 23, we didn't get rain, which is a huge plus. But 19, I also, remember being cold. And I have a little funny story for you.
mm,
2019, middle of the night, I'm really cold. We pass through this tiny village. There is a church. And I say, oh,
yeah.
I'm going to sleep in the church for a little bit.
Nice,
On
nice.
stupid things. Church
Yeah.
In France are cold because it's just stone.
Yes,
But
stone.
then
Yeah,
the door is closed, but a lady come back and she say, "Oh no, there is a room behind. The room which belonged to the church. They call it la salle paroissiale in French."
yeah.
And then it was really warm there because it was
That's
heated. So I
great.
just sleep there for half an hour, but on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
couple of other, randonneurs there. But I slept so much better. But I was
Oh,
so
that's so
tired. Say, I'm
cool.
going to sleep in
Yeah,
the church. So
yeah.
stupid. But then
Well,
this lady
uh,
come and she saves
yeah.
me. But
Well,
it was cold, 2019. Yeah.
I'm glad you were warm, Pascal, because I was freezing. Okay,
It was very
I was
cold,
shivering in a
2019.
field somewhere because I couldn't speak
Yeah.
French. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. Anything else you want to say about that second one? Otherwise, we'll talk about the final one in 2023.
Yeah, I think, yeah, it went pretty well,
Yeah.
overall. But yeah.
Okay. And at the end of this second one, you said, "Well, I'm definitely coming back." Is that correct?
Probably. So at the end of it,
Yeah.
since then I bump into, another RMCC rider, Tim Fellman. I
Yeah.
bump into my friend Jay. We had all together, and I remember I ordered a bunch of cider because I
Yeah.
don't remember they had cider in 23, but in
Okay.
2019, they had cider, and I really like cider. And
Okay.
cider is typically from Normandy, Brittany, because
Yes.
it's
Yes.
apple. But I
Okay.
never dare to, drink cider during the ride. So, but yeah, we had cider, and then we felt really good. I probably knew I was going to do it again. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. So
Mhm.
then, in the interim 4 years before 2023, you did some more long rides. You kept riding that kind of thing.
Yeah, so usually I try to do, a lot of people within RUSA, they try to do R12, P12, this kind of stuff. Usually I don't do those because I always skip a month. But I try to do the series like 2, 3, 4, 6 every year. It's a bit my goal, or a
Wow.
way to
Yeah.
stay in shape. And then lately, yes, I've been trying to do, same as a goal, not as much the ride itself, but the way to get ready for it. I feel like it keeps me in shape as I get older. So
Yeah.
maybe except the COVID year, I did a 1200K. I did the Colorado High Country, which little commercial for us. I
Yeah.
still consider part of us. I mean, if I switch my alliance to SFR,
Yeah.
I think they will
That's okay.
excommunicate me. But I mean, definitely
Yeah.
wonderful ride if you want to
Yeah.
do the high country.
Pascal, can I actually ask you to just stand up briefly because I want to see your top. Can you show them the top? Okay, it's true. Okay, you are.
Yeah,
Okay, you're not SFR at all. Okay, cool.
I
Next,
did
yeah.
order the jersey, which is supposed to arrive today, by the way.
Okay, cool. Well, hopefully you'll wear that next time, but that's okay.
Exactly.
That's great. So then, 2023, the actual event. Anything in particular you'd like to talk about?
So 2023. So yeah, little tip
Yeah.
for registration. I think for registration, it's nice to go early.
Yes.
These days they tell you pick up your time, but if you go early, I think then you can try your jersey. And I
Yeah.
think lately they have not done a very good job for jersey sizes.
I know.
2019 was super tight. Then they say, oh no, 23 is going to be good. But I
Yeah.
think 23 was still tight, or the size was not right.
It's
So if you
very
go early, you
strange. Yeah.
still have a change, yeah,
Yeah.
to change it. And then
Yeah.
for us, I think I drove to registration with Paul and Vernon.
Yeah.
And then I bump into, you bump into so many people that you know. We bump into Ian Hans,
That's
who used to
great.
live in Nashville, now he's in Seattle. We
Yeah.
bump into a bunch of Canadian riders that we knew. So I think it's a little bit, the pre-celebration. So
That's cool.
I say go early for registration if you can.
Yeah. And that last one, the most recent one, you did Adrian Hans, isn't that right?
Yeah.
And
So so it,
you started out with that intention, is that correct?
right. So this one was our intention. We wanted to do Adrian fans. There's no
Yeah.
way I will do Charlie Miller, but I can get
Okay.
the other award
The other
and
extreme.
brag
Yeah.
about it to the people who don't know about PvP. Oh, I got an award.
Yeah.
So anyway, we knew we wanted to do Adrian hands. It was a bit on our mind. So we knew we wanted to do that, yeah.
Yeah. And was it easy to achieve? I find it a little bit stressful personally, but tell us about it. Yeah.
Right. So, so 2023, Sam, Mike and I decided we will write together, but almost from the beginning, he started to have like back problem.
Oh no.
So, so then we sort of fell behind. I mean, which we seems to always fall behind anyway.
Yeah.
But we fell behind, slept in Vilaine, bumped into Steve. Then we rode again with Steve. Then we made our way to Brest. So Brest again, we lost time because we had lunch with my cousin.
Yeah.
Then on the way out of Brest, I think my niece was also in one of these little village. I hadn't seen her forever, but she said, Pascal, Pascal. So
Yeah.
then we
So
lost them
cool.
again. Then
Yeah.
there was this young lady. She was offering massage on the side of
Yeah.
the street. So because Mike by then still have back issue, we stopped for a massage. And then she was massaging somebody else before, and she sounded really friendly with
Yeah.
this person. So when he left, we said, "Did you know this cyclist?" She said, "Oh yeah, he's my dad."
Oh,
So I
amazing.
think she
Amazing.
was from Belgium. But then again,
Yeah.
Mike had a big massage. So by then we were really behind.
Yeah.
Slept in Cadillac. I think we we had breakfast. We bumped into my Korean friend. So we were really behind.
Yeah.
Didn't sleep very good. Did micro nap.
Yeah.
But eventually, I think we bumped into some other MCC like Jen and Rashid in Fougères.
Yeah.
But made it in Dreux with few micro nap. And again, once you reach
Nice.
Dreux,
Yeah.
you know you will make it.
That's cool. So then you kind of, did you have to wait to get to Adrian Hans? Because I see you had 88 hours and
Right.
57 minutes.
So, so,
Yeah.
so, so, so nice things about the end was really nice ending. So when we reached Dreux, Paul Foley was waiting for us. Was like really
Yeah.
nice. So he waited for us. Then Paul, Mike, and I started riding. I think we caught up in some of the Canadian riders that we knew, Brenda. But then
Yeah.
I was mega sleepy, and I do carry caffeine pills. But
Yeah.
then Paul gave me the gum, caffeine gum. And then for your listener, gums works better because
Okay.
it keeps you busy to chew on them.
Yes.
So we were really slow. We stopped in the little village for pastry. And
Yeah.
then right at the entrance of the park, then we were, still in front. So we waited literally, right at the entrance to make the Adrian 10 times,
Yeah.
which I don't know if I want to do that again. At the end, you want to get it over. But yeah, we
Completely.
were a little bit early and we just, waited at the
Yeah.
end to make
That's
the
great.
Adrian time.
Yes.
Hmm.
So, Pascal, before I ask you about future plans, I really just want to talk about the people of Brittany, maybe also of France. Like, as someone who's not from there, the support just blows me away. And it's just, that's why I'll always keep coming back.
Yeah, right.
What's going on with that? Explain to me why these people are so just hospitable and encouraging.
I think I mean, one of the reason is that, you go to these little villages, and that's what we talked about before. These little villages are not that used to the tourists, because most of the tourists will go on the coast. So you go to these little villages, which they are very, sleepy, but suddenly you get like 6,000 cyclists going through on
Yeah,
for some of these little villages. It's a big event. You go through Carré, they have all the flag of the country, and you go back to Vilaine. It's like huge attractions.
yeah,
So for them, they spend a lot of time to plan that.
yeah,
And then maybe, the background of PBP, the excitement of having all these cyclists from all over the world, allez, allez, allez,
yeah,
so I think
yeah.
this, it's sort of big thing for
Yeah.
them, big deal. Yeah.
There must be an interesting rhythm. Every 4 years, this part of the world gears up for this huge event, and they take time off work and school. I suspect, well, not school, but is that right?
Yes, right. So the school is still going on. I mean, the school is off by then, but the same, the little kids will help you when we stop in Vilaine. The little
Yeah,
girls ask you if they can carry your
yeah,
food. So it's kind of big deal, and they all prepare for it. So
yeah.
so,
Cool.
so I think it's
And
nice things.
and in France in general, like regionally, where is the kind of the biking mecca of France?
Uh, I think it's hard to tell, like Bernard Hinault was from a little town called Iffignac, which is very close to Tintignac, actually.
Okay.
So I think historically, Brittany had a very strong biking culture, but I think, I don't remember where the other strong French
Yeah,
cyclists from long time ago
yeah, I
were
get you.
from. But Brittany has a pretty strong biking culture,
Yeah,
I would say.
that's cool. Okay, so let's talk about the future. Pascal, do you plan to do it again?
Probably,
Of
I
course,
will
yeah.
be 63 by then, and probably, yeah, probably means, of course. I
Okay.
think be 63 by then. I think it, mean to keep me in shape, but
Yeah.
yeah, I would say
Yeah.
probably.
Okay.
Mm.
Well, okay. We know you're going to be there, whatever. Okay. Do
Yeah.
you think you're going to do anything different in 2027?
Yeah, I mean, I keep telling myself, you need to be more efficient, but in practice,
I know.
I'm not too sure it's going to happen. Um, I'm not too sure. I think at this point I will do things that different. I think I'm pretty happy with my equipment, with the changes I made since 2015.
Yeah.
The thing sometimes I wonder if should find a hotel along the way. 2015 I did a hotel, I used it.
Yeah.
2019 actually I did reserve a hotel around Tintignac
Yeah.
and I shared it the location with Mike and I and my Korean friend, and we ended up not using it.
Yeah.
One thing I know is that like the Korea randonneur, what they do, they reserve few hotel along the way and they share them among all of them.
Yeah.
So maybe
That's
that's
smart.
something I'll consider, but I don't seem to be doing a better job as a French as other people to find hotels.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think I'll probably do the same strategy, which is, not
Yeah.
plan too much, but
Yeah.
hopefully make it.
I suspect as well moving to California means you'll be able to ride more around like 12 months of the year, right? That may
Uh,
or may not benefit you.
yeah, I mean, but I think it unites a little bit. Some people who have never been to Colorado think that in winter we are buried under the snow, but it's
Yeah, so
not
that's me. Okay.
really, yeah, that's not really true.
Okay.
Except if you live in the mountain, if you live in the Front Range, like Denver, Boulder,
Yeah.
you can be buried under the snow one day, and then because the air is so dry, the next day
Okay.
the road can be clear. And
Okay.
then in winter, the 200 brevet tend to be on the plain on the east side. So when I started, actually in 2015, we didn't have brevet year round, but now we do. So I
Okay.
think my level of fitness will not be that different. But this last year, I had a 1500K ride in Korea. So then I was a little bit worried about my fitness.
Yeah.
So then I started doing cross training, which I think
Okay.
I will keep, doing as I get older. Maybe I'll ride less, but try to do more cross training, more weight
Smart.
training to
Yeah.
have stronger core. So
Cool.
maybe, little
Yeah.
tips there.
Yeah.
Not necessarily ride more, but
Yes.
more cross
Okay.
training or smarter.
Speaking of tips, Pascal, we're going to get your 3 tips from a genuine French person on that guarantee a finish.
Okay,
Tip
so
number one.
I have my 3 tips here. So,
Okay.
so this one, the first one is not really, to guarantee to finish, but I think it's nice to have, the little souvenir or little things that you can give to the kids along the way or to
Yeah.
the volunteer. So in 2015, we didn't have anything, but 19 and 23, we had these little pins.
Yeah.
And we had two type of pins. One with the flag of Colorado. Maybe I should replace with California now.
Okay.
And the flag of Brittany.
Yes,
And
that's
then
lovely. Yeah.
we had the other, pins with the flag of France and the US, which maybe this day could be very appropriate, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah, in 2019, we were eating in Fougères, and there were the motorcyclists helping along the
Yeah.
course, and I gave one pin to one guy, and then the other guy was like, "Oh, what about me?" So then I had
Yeah.
to go to my bike to get one
That's
more.
great. That's
But
great.
yes, these motorcyclists, they are also volunteers. They are part of some
Yes, completely.
motorcycling in Normandy, so it's really nice. And then, yeah, one time I gave a pin to a kid. He was giving the towels. They are not really towels, but the
Yeah.
kid was like, "Wow, that's for me." So I think that try to
It's a love.
interact
Yeah.
on that's little
Perfect. Yep.
things which improve the
Okay.
experience, I think. My second tip, yeah. So my second tip is if you have time, try to arrive early. You can make sure your equipment is okay. If you need to buy CO2 cartridge, you have time to do that. And then if you have time, the area south of Versailles or east of Rambouillet is beautiful. It's called
Yeah.
Vallée de Chevreuse. There's like plenty of small villages, old castle, because it's a bit of reserve. It's a park
Yeah.
regional. So it's really beautiful area. And then if you have time, it's a beautiful
Cool.
part of Spain to
Makes
spend
sense.
a
Yep.
little bit of time. The third tip is that, yeah, make a plan, but also, be flexible. In my case, a plan doesn't really work.
Yeah.
And then you are going to spend 4 days in a foreign country. Probably you spend a lot of money. So try to have fun. And if the
Yes.
plan doesn't work, I know some people who went for the Charlie Miller didn't
Yeah.
make it, but they still, try to finish.
Yeah.
You will be happy no matter what. So I'll say be
Perfect.
flexible.
Cool.
So mm,
Great. Three great tips, Pascal. It's been a
thank you.
complete pleasure. Like, it's just
Oh, it's
wonderful
great.
to hear from a French perspective,
Mm,
right? You have a lovely
Thanks,
country,
Peter.
by the way. I'm a big
Uh,
fan, okay?
Big fan of Highland too.
Okay, talk soon. Okay.